Hello, my name is Camellia Jahanshahi and I am the Dismantling Barriers lead for the Canadian Unitarian Council.
And I'm the Reverend Nicoline Guerrier, Congregational Life Lead for Central and Eastern Regions. We'd like to welcome you to our national service this morning.
We're going to start off with a land acknowledgement. So I invite you to take a nice deep breath in and out as you ground yourselves in this moment. I begin with marking the violent histories of where we are, with making note of and reminding us of the ongoing conflicts and contradictions of this land, this water, this air. By examining the history of these lands and understanding their current state, we get into a practice of saying the names of the land and the peoples whose land we are occupying, an action we take to be better accomplices to our Indigenous siblings in the struggle for Indigenous sovereignty. I'm speaking to you, we are speaking to you, from Montreal. Lands of the Anishinaabe and the Kanien'kehá:ka, members of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, in a city called Tiohtià:ke or Munyan. Most of you are joining us in this virtual space from across Turtle Island, or North America, home to dozens of different Indigenous peoples that teach us so much about the concept of belonging, as they each have their own nuanced histories. There are so many ways that we can belong to a space. And when working with land acknowledgements, it's important to make space to listen to the language that Indigenous peoples from your area are using. We do this work because it helps us to honor and support the work of Indigenous peoples to build and rebuild strong communities. We bring our histories with us, those native to this land, Indigenous people from other territories, as well as white settlers by conquest, and those of us who have come here by force or otherwise as a result of enslavement, colonialism, imperialism, and ongoing wars. When we enter any room, we must bring these histories into view. In doing so, we build connections and can critically engage with the concept of belonging not just to ourselves and our immediate surroundings, but with communities around the globe that face similar systematic issues. With this, I close out this acknowledgement and an understanding that while it is important to do, it is not the end-all, be-all of this work, and I thank you for your presence. I invite you now to take another nice deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Thank you.
As a faith movement, part of our purpose is to remind ourselves and each other of all we hold sacred. So I'm going to invite us to open with gratitude. The practice of giving thanks helps us bring sacred appreciation to the many gifts life offers us daily, regardless of any merit we create by our actions.
Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here, those far away, for the time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks.
We give thanks
for this precious day.
for this precious day.
For all gathered here.
For all gathered here.
Those far away.
Those far away.
For the time we share.
For the time we share.
With love and care.
With love and care.
Oh, we give thanks.
Oh, we give thanks
for this precious day.
for this precious day.
Oh, we give thanks.
Oh, we give thanks
for this precious day.
for this precious day.
For all gathered here.
For all gathered here.
Those far away.
Those far away.
For the time we share.
For the time we share.
With love and care.
With love and care.
Oh, we give thanks.
Oh, we give thanks
for this precious day. For all gathered here, those far away, for the time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Yes, we give thanks for this precious day. Yes, we give thanks for this precious day.
Our call to worship today comes from Mary Oliver and is called Invitation. Oh, do you have time to linger for just a little while out of your busy and very important day? For the goldfinches that are gathered in a field of thistles, for a musical battle to see who can sing the highest note or the lowest, or the most expressive of mirth or the most tender. Their strong, blunt beaks drink the air as they strive melodiously, not for your sake or for mine, and not for the sake of winning, but for the sheer delight and gratitude. Believe us, they say, it is a serious thing. Just to be alive on this fresh morning in the broken world, I beg of you, do not walk by without pausing to attend to this rather ridiculous performance. It could mean something. It could mean everything. It could be what Rilke meant when he wrote, "You must change your life."
For being alive on this fresh morning in the broken world, we light our chalice and enter sacred space together. We wanted to introduce two framing questions for our time together this morning. First, at this moment in time, what are you most longing for? And second question, what can we do together that we can't do alone?
So again, first, at this moment in time, what are you most longing for? And second, what can we do together that we can't do alone?
I'm longing for a world where peace with our world and among ourselves becomes once again the goal of human existence.
Longing for a world that vibes through an inspiring tone.
I'm longing for a world where everyone can feel safe and supported.
I'm longing for a world where people find belonging.
You may know that ancient Buddhist story about learning to live with heartbreak and loss.
I do know this story. Kisagotami is overcome by grief after the unexpected death of her only son, still a small child. She roams the street of her village, carrying her son's body in her arms, convinced that if only she can find a remedy, her beloved son will be restored to life.
She asked for help from everyone she passes, but no one knows of such a cure. Some in the town direct her to the Buddha, who she finally approaches for help. "Please," she asks, sobbing, "can you help me find a remedy?" "Indeed I can," the Buddha answers, "but first you have to bring me a mustard seed. There is one thing, however. This mustard seed must come from a household where no one has ever died and no one has ever lost a loved one.
Kisagotami sets off with a new hopefulness. Mustard seeds are one of the most common spices, she reminds herself knowingly, and so every household will have some on hand. She knocks at the first door where the villager who answers is happy to give her not just one but several mustard seeds. However, the villager explains, you should know that not long ago I lost my niece.
Kisagotami knocks at the second door, but in this household, the family is still grieving their elderly father, though he died some years before. On and on, the same pattern repeats itself. Kisagotami knocks on doors, words are exchanged, and sometimes tears. As it turns out, mustard seeds exist in plenty, but in every household, someone has lost a sibling, a parent, a friendship, a true love, or a beloved pet.
Days go by as Kisagotami continues to take in other people's stories and shares her own in turn. At last, less burdened, she decides to lay her son to rest in a nearby forest and returns to speak with the Buddha, bowing respectfully.
The Buddha asks her, "Did you find the mustard seed?" "Mustard seeds were available everywhere I visited," Kisagotami replies, "but I also discovered that no household is free from death and from loss. And so I see the remedy has worked," the Buddha said. "You may have thought I was promising to cure your son, but in fact, the remedy was for you."
I'm longing for a world where the focus isn't on debate and having the last word, but on understanding and finding common ground.
I am longing for a world where diversity is embraced as a blessing.
I'm longing for a world where we really listen deeply and respectfully to each other.
Let's come back to our framing questions. The first one was, at this moment in time, what are you most longing for?
And the second one is, what can we do together that we can't do alone?
In a way, it seems to me that the story about Kisagotami is a story about collapse. When the moment that her son dies, everything that she hangs her life on, everything that gives her meaning and purpose falls away. And it's kind of making me think about how in this era where there's social, political, environmental collapse, we are living into this kind of death of the things that support us, even though on the surface it's very much business as usual. And I know you and I have talked about this before, but I'm really curious to hear more about how you see collapse, because I know when I hear the word collapse, even though I get it, part of me is like, wait, what?
And my face just goes, yeah! Yeah, collapse is so many things, but I think especially it is a sign of relief. It is an acknowledgement that we are going through turmoil, and yeah, maybe it's a generational thing where I feel like my generation was just born into a world that wasn't ready for us, or that didn't even really want us in some regards, and we've just been fighting tooth and nail like my whole life moving through wars and housing crises. And of course, I'm coming from a U.S. context, but it's not like these things exist in a vacuum, and we feel them here in Canada as well. All sorts of debt and just, you know, the downslide of capitalism and colonialism and all of these systems that can't support us, don't want to support us, and we're set up by people who don't look like me or think like me or could have even imagined who I might be because they were created so long ago, and they just don't support. So when I think of collapse, I'm thinking of a collapse of these systems, and I'm thinking of the potential for beauty and change and growth that happens when we, unfortunately hit rock bottom. But there's something so beautiful to me in the sense of rest that can come with rock bottom, and just an acknowledgement and a sense of accountability to all of the things that are going on around us, and letting us just recognize that something isn't working and accept that it needs to end, it needs to collapse in order for something else to come out of it. And when I think of that, I can't help but be joyful, because, you know, our systems, they're not just not working for me, they're not working for any of us, or the percentage of people that they're working for is so small. But even then, it's damaging to us all. We can definitely see, and I won't go on a tangent about that, but none of this is supporting any of us, and being able to lean into that, to just let, as Mary Oliver says, the soft animal of our body love what it loves, and to just let go of our defensiveness is a beautiful thing. And I really, really, truly believe that from collapse, from rock bottom, from destruction, comes rebirth and renewal, and hopefully a sense of solidarity and connection and mutual aid, like we saw in the wisdom tale that was shared, to connect and to move forward and to find new life and new connection from that collapse moment. And I think that's the really beautiful thing that I cling to, I guess, when it comes to collapse. Yeah.
I would love to cling to the idea that there's something beautiful. As someone who's more from Mary Oliver's generation, I can say that most of my adult life was also sustained by mountains of debt. Mm-hmm. And now that the debt is finally all paid off, I notice that it's hard for me to think collectively. I have a kind of reflex to want to cling to some kind of baseline, and the idea that I wouldn't fall below that. So even though intellectually I get it, collapse, it feels very threatening to something that I've only newly kind of climbed out of.
Of course. I think that recognizing that sense of threat is just a sign that you have something that you love and you want to protect yourself. And I think in this ultimate vision of collapse as a dream, you wouldn't fall below that, because we would be able to connect and lean on each other and go into our individual strengths with the collective in mind, you know? I think that I'm seeing a really big push towards more mutual aid networks and more senses of how can we exist in solidarity with respect for each other's individual needs, but really with more of a willingness to be uncomfortable and to recognize that sometimes we can let go of something knowing that it's not actually going to leave, because if we let go of our control, we often create more pathways for more people to move in and to fill in those gaps. You know, something I often tell people when I'm talking about being burnt out or overworked or whatever is that it's okay to stop. And if something needs to keep going, somebody else with the capacity and resources will move into that role. And there's a lot to be said for the amount of faith and trust. That's probably the hardest part of collapse, is to have faith and trust that something will fill it in. But I have that faith, and so it is exciting to me, because I really trust in the world around us that we want to live, we want to be together, we want to be here. And so in letting go, because I also have that scarcity, I also have that, I certainly don't want to be where I was a few years ago, like, you know, and I believe that I won't, because I trust that there are things in place, there are people that I love, there are more abundant resources than our colonized, scarcity-focused mindsets are allowing us to connect to. And I believe in the reciprocity of community, and that will overcome collapse from a negative standpoint. Like maybe it's foolhardy, maybe it's naive, but it is what I believe, that people will come through if you let them.
So funny, when you were talking about letting go of things, my mind went right away to this process, and we talked together about the expectation or the habit that often a service revolves around a sermon. And in my experience, a sermon is something that is built on paper or built through typing out many words and being able to trust that those carefully constructed sentences will carry the message that I want to share with whoever's listening. And so when we said, let's make it a conversation, let's make it about the wisdom that emerges instead of the wisdom that's been sort of like formed and shaped inside my individual head. I was all on board, and yet it was so scary to say, let's just sit here and be human together and see what emerges. And maybe that's like a very tiny microcosm of the discomfort of leaning into doing things as a collaboration rather than as an isolated individual.
I think as Adrienne Maree Brown says, the small affects the large, and it is a ripple effect. So even that is a microcosm of the experience, it is absolutely one that reflects the larger systems and world around us. And here you are leaning into trusting me, me leaning into trusting you, leaning into trusting Amber behind the camera, and having faith that we are both in a place to have this conversation and allowing it to exist, and trusting that our audience will be willing to take us as we are, because that's also part of solidarity work and connection and community, is showing up authentically and trusting that people will meet you where you're at. And that's also a hard part of this work. It takes a lot of practice. But I do think, and I've had so many affirming experiences, that the more authentically I show up, the more authentically other people show up as well. And then something really beautiful can emerge, because we're not stuck to a script. We're not stuck to a certain timeline. We are, in a lot of ways, uncolonizing how we are relating to each other and the world around us, and what people might expect from our faith, from our religion, from this work. And that's like a beautiful gift to give each other and people who are watching us right now.
So can we talk a bit more about solidarity and
Yeah.
kind of explain what it is? I know that the story, the wisdom story, is a kind of solidarity, not by default, but it's kind of Kisa Gotami and the people that she interacted with at the doorstep came to discover the values that connected them, that would lead them to be in solidarity with each other, but it was kind of happenstance. And I know that there's kind of a distinction between solidarity as just a fuzzy feeling of empathy, like, oh, I feel you, I'm with you, and a constructed support or a constructed way of collaborating in service of a common goal. And I also know that there's a further distinction between reactive solidarity, where it's like, oh, I don't like the world is changing, I'm going to get together with people that are like me, and we're going to push back against that, versus a transformative solidarity whose purpose is to undo the structures and systems that are leaving people out, left, right, and center, and bring more people into a world of thriving. I wonder if you could say more about how you understand solidarity. I know you've written, among all the amazing toolkits that you've put together for the CUC, there's one specifically about solidarity. So
yes,
you could speak to that.
Yes, solidarity is so many things.
Okay.
I think it's maybe easier sometimes to define it by what it's not, and what it's not is competition. And what it's not is a charity mindset. So like, I'm doing this for somebody in order to get something, is very much, I would say, a charity mindset, or like, you know, a little ego moment for us all. So with those things taken out, solidarity stays as a action or a set of actions that we take to be in community, to be in reciprocity, to be in connection with other people and beings around, including like being in solidarity with our environment, or in solidarity with food. You know what I mean? Like, these things are also aspects that I consider to be solidarity work, and notions and people and beings that I'm in solidarity with the understanding that being in solidarity means being in connection with something with the goal of bettering life for everything and everyone involved. And often people will ask me like, okay, well, who's the enemy then? Like, who am I fighting? And I say, nobody. You're not fighting anybody in specific. You're fighting systems. Solidarity is the understanding that it is you and me against a system, not you and me against a person. Even though sometimes it is easy to think, here's an individual who's embodying all of these systems that I don't like, and so that must be my enemy. No, that person is also subject to those systems that are hurting them, even if they can't really understand it, or if they have enough privilege to think, oh, it's not hurting me that much. They are still being wounded in several ways by these harmful systems, and so they are not my enemy. The systems are my enemy. And I think that is one of the harder, more nuanced aspects of solidarity to really understand. But at the end of the day, we all have the same basic needs, you know? And if we can just keep a little bit of commonality in mind, it is easier to reframe us versus them to us against a system. A system that none of us created and that isn't serving any of us. And so in these toolkits that I make, yes, there is one specifically dedicated to understanding some of the more basic frameworks of solidarity and how to like get invested into solidarity actions where you are, wherever you're coming from. But really the goal for all of the work that I'm doing is to point towards collective liberation and solidarity work through everything that's happening at the CUC. And I think that, by breaking them up into little sections and themes, it's a little bit easier to grasp onto something and to find a window in that like sparks passion and justice and love truly in you. And then once you have that little love spark, it goes out from there, and you start to connect more and more dots and realize how many different things are under the weight of these systems. And then when you become aware of that, solidarity just kind of follows naturally. I really think that. But it is building on awareness and switching outside of an individual mindset and into one of connection and love, and recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of every person and the interdependence that we're all in with each other, no matter who we are or what we think. There is a point of connection there, and that's where solidarity starts.
Another way in that I've heard is from the French sociologist Emile Durkheim, who at the end of the 19th century talked about the fact that we're all born in debt to those who came before. Nobody starts out with a clean slate. Like, we are indebted, and so it's sort of our responsibility to pay it forward, to carry the accountability, the responsibility, but also the understanding of the interconnection. We also often talk about interdependence as being kind of lateral. I'm connected to you, I'm connected to the planet. Well, I'm also connected to those who came before and those who will hopefully come after. And so the solidarity concept or mindset is to honor those connections. And then the other thing that Durkheim talks about is the role of religion, and that religions are for establishing habits of solidarity, because yes, you can be awakened to, I want to act in a more solidarity-minded way, but our society is kind of pushing us to act in a very individualistic way. So the religions, what's interesting is that part of what they do is they invite us into paying attention to things of worth, to naming those things as being sacred. And I say that in the broadest sense, like not just sacred in the sense of some theological perspective on what's sacred, but as being so much of worth that you should protect it with your whole being. So what's of worth, what is sacred, and then what are actions that help keep the sacred alive? And I love how, back to the Kisa Gotami story again, when she goes to the Buddha, he doesn't give her an instruction about how to think about things. He gives her a practice, which is to go out there and do the mustard seed thing. And through the practice, she is sort of initiated into solidarity. And I think that in a way that we maybe don't always think about, our UU communities and congregations are also for those practices of noticing what's of worth, lifting them up as being deeply worthy, and then sort of embodying them. Or that's what we do when we're at our best.
When we're at our best. I would just, I love Durkheim. I think people get anxious around the word debt. I would switch it to legacy. We're all born into a legacy, and we have responsibility to that legacy. Whether that's unlearning or relearning or whatever it is, that's, maybe a language thing that I would reframe. But then, yes, religion is, I think, such an important aspect. And I come from an anthropological viewpoint where my view on religion is extremely expansive. I think we all have a religion, whether that is Unitarian Universalism or something else, because it's made of rituals, and this naming of the sacred and what we want to protect, and allowing our views of the sacred and our views of morality to define how we are acting. And I do think that we can look at ritual as a way to spiritualize our political action. And when we can reframe for ourselves the importance of social justice work and solidarity work as acts of ritual, as parts of our spiritual lives, our religious lives, there's so much potential there for what we can do as a faith. And I think that's a beautiful thing to focus on, is how we can use our faith to move us forward into this transformative solidarity space. Yeah.
I'm taking inspiration from the words of a wise commentator who looks at civic life named Mika Sifri, who says, "The waves of change that are coming are too big for any of us to stop. So build lifeboats, build community, strengthen friendships, and look for ways to involve people different than just your own tribe in shared activity." And I wonder whether that is part of a calling or a way forward for Unitarian Universalism to, here in Canada, try to find ways to involve people that are different from what you are used to in this shared commitment to the common good.
Yeah. Absolutely. I do think, yes. I think that is our way forward. You know, we have such strong individual mindsets that can keep us really in small groups that don't actually serve us as much as we would like to think that they do. And I think that we really have a way forward as a faith in doing what we are already accustomed to doing, of honoring each other's individual needs, but then really coming together to celebrate our differences and to find connection and sustainable movement forward through our differences. So yes.
And that's sort of what we've been trying to do through this intergenerational conversation.
Yes.
So thank you, Camellia.
Thank you, Nicoline. Thank you, Amber.
We resist, we refuse to let hatred in. We rise up, we won't back down. We're in this till the end. We resist, we refuse to let hatred in. We rise up, we won't back down. We're in this till the end. We resist, we refuse to let hatred in. We rise up, we won't back down. We're in this till the end. We resist, we refuse to let hatred in. We rise up, we won't back down. We're in this till the end. We resist, we refuse to let hatred in. We rise up, we won't back down. We're in this till the end. We resist, we refuse to let hatred in. We rise up, we won't back down. We're in this till the end. We resist, pray for your enemies. To welcome a stranger. We rise up, show love to your neighbor. We're in this till the end. We resist, pray for your enemies. Welcome the stranger. Show love to your neighbor. We're in this till the end. We resist, pray for your enemies. Welcome the stranger. Show love to your neighbor.
next few minutes, we're going to invite you to turn toward one another in conversation. If you're part of a group in a shared space, we invite you to gather in a group of roughly 3. And if you are willing to share your responses to the first of our 2 framing questions, which was, at this moment in time, what are you most longing for? At this moment in time, what are you most longing for? If you're attending online from your home or an individual space, you're welcome to respond to the same question in the chat. And of course, if you don't feel like speaking, it's always fine to pass. You can simply offer the gift of listening to someone else. We have 6 minutes for this activity, and we will revisit these questions later in our service.
I'm James Garland, Treasurer of the Canadian Unitarian Council. As a lifelong UU with a long history in leadership, from supporting UU youth, to serving on my congregation's board, to leading a ministerial search committee, I know firsthand how our UU communities are there for us at every stage of our lives. Your financial gifts are part of what makes it possible for us to keep reaching out to one another and to bring our UU values out into the world. To donate, please give directly to your local congregation or use the QR code or visit cuc.ca/donate and then select the Growing into the Future Fund. Every gift makes a difference and no gift is too small. We are grateful for your support for Canadian Unitarian Universalism.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these vibes. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive in this great turning. We shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these vibes. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive in this great turning. We shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love.
The following letter comes from a challenge that I invited the CUC staff into when I started, inspired by the work of Adrienne Marie Brown as she examined the work of Octavia Butler from a collection of stories called Octavia's Brood. In it, there was a letter about reimagining our future from the perspective of a descendant. And this is a beautiful opportunity to explore our collectivity through a radical imaginatory lens. And this is the result of that assignment.
Dear future UUs, it's 2075 and I hope this letter finds you thriving in ways we could only dream of. I'm writing you from the early 2020s, a time of uncertainty, division, and possibility. We were waking up to hard truths about our systems, our culture, and even ourselves. But more importantly, we were beginning to imagine something better and beginning to build it together. Back then, We wrestled with deep-rooted patterns that no longer served us. Individualism over interdependence, perfectionism over experimentation, scarcity over abundance. It wasn't easy to let those go. Some of us clung tightly to control, to being the doers and the fixers. But little by little, we learned that leadership could be shared, that truth could be held collectively, and that trust, not certainty, could carry us through the unknown. The work of our generation wasn't just about what we built, but how we built it. We practiced collaboration even when it was messy. We learned to pause before reacting, to listen for what wasn't said, and to center those whose voices had long gone unheard. We asked better questions. We made room for grief, joy, and growth all at once. Our greatest hope was to plant something that would grow beyond us. We protected the sacredness of community, nourished the roots of justice, and tended to the soil of imagination. We dreamed not just for ourselves, but for those yet to come, for the young people we knew and the ones we would never meet. Our actions were guided by a sense of responsibility to the seventh generation. Learning to work collectively was uncomfortable at first. I had to unlearn the belief that my value came from having the answers. And what surprised me most was how much I grew, not by standing apart, but by recognizing myself as part of something larger, a shared effort shaped by many hands and hearts. The growth came when I began to truly trust the process, the people, and the vision we were building together. I imagine that UUism today in your time looks different than it did in ours, and that's a sign of health. I hope your communities are fluid, intergenerational, and deeply rooted in relationships across differences. I hope you have tools for navigating conflict with compassion, and that you know how to share power without fear. I hope the chalice still burns, not just as a symbol, but as a living reminder of the light we all carry and tend together. What am I most proud of? That we kept going, that we chose not to stay comfortable, but to grow, that we remembered the future was worth fighting for, even when the path was unclear. With care and courage, Brigitte Toomey.
Returning to our wisdom tale, why was it that Kisa Gotami had to work through her troubles on her own, going from person to person and door to door, before finally being able to discover how deeply people were all connected? I'm longing for a world where collectively we commit to helping one another unearth our sacred connections even before they're needed, and then living into mutual care.
And I'm longing for a world where connection and compassion override scarcity, fear, and isolation. A world where our interdependence triumphs over all systems that try to keep us separate.
Turn to each other, let someone in. There is no better way to begin. Return to wonder, find common ground. We can discover the love to be found as we turn to each other, circle and spin. No time to lose and no need to win. Everything living under the sun is turning together, united as one, as we turn to each other, bridge that divide. Welcome the stranger, hearts open wide, open to change and willing to grow, turning in time as the river will flow as we turn to each other, turn to each other, turn to each other, turn.
In the words of the poet Audre Lorde, you do not have to be me in order for us to fight alongside each other. What we must do is commit ourselves to some future that can include each other and to work toward that future with the particular strengths of our individual identities.
Though we extinguish our flame, may the goal of this shared future light our way. Blessed be, and may we together make it so.
You keep crinkling at the end.
I don't know what to make to make it